Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much, Masters of Ceremonies. I would like to announce that Mr. Colin Piquet, our MLA for Athabasca, Sturgeon, Redwater, has arrived. So, Mr. Piquet, would you please stand? Let me give him a round of applause, please. We thank you, Mr. Piquet, for joining us. Also, Mrs. Carson, Mr. Kislick, family, friends, and guests of all the graduates, and most importantly of all, to the graduates. So I had this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine about speeches. I was saying, I need to work on this for tomorrow night. And he started to tell me what his thoughts and views were about speeches and how they can sometimes be a little bit long and maybe even not relevant. So that really challenged me, so I had to go tear up everything I had done and start all over again. Actually, that's not true. I hadn't started, so thank goodness. So I started thinking, though, what could I say to you as your trustee that would be relevant and not too long? And of course, I have two of my own children here tonight, and they're already thinking, that's not even possible, Mom. By the way, Nathan, I'm just wondering where you are. Yep, got him. So just so I know where the focal, eye contact, 4-H stuff, right? Anyways, good to see you, sons. So if I was actually going to speak to you and make it relevant, this is how it would go. I would come on down and sit there. I'd probably have a set of speakers, plug in the phone, maybe yours as well, and we'd have a conversation about life through music. And so very similar to what each of you did as you chose your songs when you came out here tonight already. Because for those of you who know me, I'm pretty passionate about music. And I've found that over the years, songs are one of the ways that really, really touch us. And there's a reason for that, because people who write songs, write the music, lyrics, and perform them, they just don't do it because it seems like a good idea. They're actually called to do it. The poets and the songwriters of our age, of all the ages, are truly inspired. And I think it's really appropriate that you chose the guest speaker that you did tonight. I look forward to hearing from you later, Tiffany. Thank you very much for joining us. So in the meantime, though, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes of my own thoughts, just as a prelude to Tiffany's speech. And the first thing I wanted to say, though, is I had a few moments to speak with the graduates when they were doing the rehearsal on Thursday. And there's one thing that I was going to share it just personally with them, and then I realized that it was something that I thought I wanted to share with all of you. Over the course of the last 3 years or so, there have been a few social gatherings at my house. And they're usually on a Friday or a Saturday night. And at those social gatherings, of the group of fabulous people here tonight, probably about 2/3 of them have been at my place at one time or another. I wanted to share with you that throughout all those times, how wonderful these young people are. I don't want to even say people because you're actually adults. You're certainly not kids anymore. Yeah, young people. They have been so fantastic. Not only did they come and have a good time, which is, if anyone knows me, that is a rule. You need to have fun with life, regardless of what's going on. But they also have been very, very respectful. Not once have I ever suffered any loss of any sort. And I'm really, really, really grateful for that. So once again, I thank those of you, and there's many of you here, for that. Thank you for coming and enjoying my home. But I also wanted to turn this over to the parents tonight, because to the parents of those students, you get the credit, because you're the ones who've taught them respect and kindness, and I want to thank you very, very much for that. Well done. Also in our conversation the other day, and it was only about 5 or 10 minutes long, I asked each of them what would they do, what would they change about the education system if they could, because that is what I'm going to be talking about, is change. And the one, aside from heating problems in Mr. Gross's room, the one theme that came out was a respect for the teachers and a desire for the teachers to actually get paid more and for there to be more teachers. And I thought, isn't that outstanding? Instead of whining and complaining about things that they themselves have suffered, they were thinking of others and they were thinking of their teachers. Well done, students. Thank you, and thank you to our teachers. What I would like to talk about tonight for a couple of moments is change. And one of the songs that I used last year in my graduation address was Raise a Little Hell by Trooper. And it's funny because back in the 70s when we used that for our graduating song, it was kind of a rebellious song about digging in your heels and seeing how it feels, right? To raise a little hell of your own. But it's interesting that 35 years later, it kind of takes a little bit of a different meaning. And it goes something to the effect that, and I did have to jot it down because I'm one of those people who knows all the words to the songs, I just always get them in the wrong order. You know, if you don't like what you see, why don't you fight it? If you know there's something wrong, why don't you right it? If you don't like what you've got, why don't you change it? And if your world is all screwed up, rearrange it. And so tonight I just wanted to talk about changing it. We need leaders in our society. And leaders are often people who say there needs to be a change. Now the thing about change, and there'll be 3 points about change, and the first one is, we want to get to a point where change will be proactive. We have lived too far long as a society where change is reactive. If something's really bad, then we decide to make a change. Sometimes we get really upset and we fight, we swear, we stamp our feet, and that's not always bad, but how much better it would be for you, all of you who are going to be making the changes, to just go along and say, this is good. Could it be a little better? This is going really well. What would happen if we tried this? And I really want to challenge you and encourage you to never forget that wherever you go and whatever you do, to be instruments of change. Because the world around us is changing, and it's important that we are able to adapt and be ready for that. So I really, really look forward to seeing what you'll do. Now, change is not easy, and if you're one of the people who are making the changes, it can be a really, really difficult time. The song that comes to mind on this would be I Walk Alone by Green Day. Because often when you're someone who is always thinking about different ways to do things, you'll be thinking about it on your own. But let me tell you that that's not a bad thing. Being on your own gives you a chance to think and make your own decisions and find out who you are. That's a little bit like Audio Slaves, Be Yourself as well, by the way. So never, ever go into despair when you're feeling really, really alone. And now that you've left the group of the school, or you'll be leaving the group within the school, there will be times where you'll be more alone than you probably ever have been before in your life. Don't worry, that's okay. It's a good place to be. That's often where some of the most brilliant ideas in our world have come about, where people have had time to really, really think on their own and make the changes that are necessary, or start making the changes. And then you'll be surprised to find out how many people come on board afterwards. The other thing that happens when you want to be someone who is an instrument of change is there will be pushback. If you've ever swam in the ocean when the tide is coming in, it's pretty much impossible to be moving out. If you haven't been to the ocean, I'm sure we've all been to concerts where there's a big throng of people coming this way, and you're wanting to go that way. And that's exactly what it feels like when you're wanting to make change. Because change isn't comfortable, and even if others think it's a good idea, there's a good chance they'll even push back, because no one really likes moving out of their comfort zone. I can tell you right now tonight that it's worth it. As your school trustee, there are times that I have to say, no, I don't agree with this. And it's not an easy thing to do, and you'd think that as an adult who's kind of tall and has a strong voice, I would be able to do that. But it isn't easy. Sometimes I'm the no vote. And so I want to encourage you to be able to do that. Be strong. Don't worry about what other people say. Be yourselves and say no when it's time to say no. Say yes when it's time to say yes. So far, not bad for not using the notes. I was trying to follow my friend's advice here, so now let's see how far off I am. The question would be, why as your trustee would I be so strong? And it's because of you. First of all, I want to thank all of the parents and the other community members here who did elect me, and you elected me to be your trustee, and that means you trusted me to help oversee the education of the students. And I take that very, very seriously. And the reason I take it seriously is because I am passionate about education. And I'm passionate about community, and I'm passionate about the youth of our community, which are these fabulous people here. I would move heaven and earth if I thought that there was something important for them. Because education isn't about the marks and the evaluations. It isn't even about new schools or old schools or big schools or little schools. It's about the individuals. It's about you, each and every one of you. And at the end of the day, the question is, how are you doing? How are you learning? Are you excited to learn, or has that been taken out of you? And that's what matters, and that's the test. And I hope that as you go forward, you've had some great experiences and that you're ready to go learn for the rest of your lives. Be leaders, and make sure that you're ready to face the challenges of changes. As a closing note, I would like to remind you of two of my favorite songs. Johnny Reed's Try and Change the World, and Tim McGraw's Humble and Kind. I hope you have a fabulous celebration, and we look forward to hearing from you as the years go by. Oh, and don't forget, drink milk.